Hi everybody, and welcome back to another edition of Plastic Models by a Regular Dude. Today, I'm going to see what happened in November and what's coming up in December. So, the project I've got on the bench right now, if you follow along, is the Takom 1/35th scale Porsche turret. I know that's the incorrect phrase. King Tiger with full interior. That Patrick Schaefer sent to me. So I am working on that, and then I've got another kit lined up to start working on as kind of a how-to kind of project. So let me flip the camera around and we'll take a look at the King Tiger first. Alright, so I am up to step 36, which is the ammunition. And as you can see, I've got a coat of white on it, but I've changed up the way I'm going to paint it. I'll get to that in a second. But here is the kit so far. And as you can see, there is a lot going on in these kits. There is a lot of detail and stuff like that. Now, I would consider this to be a challenging kit for somebody of my skill set. There's a lot involved and takes a lot of test fitting and you know, positioning and looking ahead and making sure excuse me, that the parts that are coming up interact with the parts you're installing now, because things can kind of snowball if you position something incorrectly. But so far it's been really good. I've had to reposition a few things here and there, do a little tweaking, and I'm sure about 95% of it is my own, like not positioning something just right. But there are some parts that, you know, they may have a locating pin or something like that, but it's not, say, half moon shaped or something like that, so it gives you the, you know, exactly where it's supposed to be. I mean, there's a range of motion going on that you need to kind of really pay attention to. One thing that has been really helpful is this painting guide, because it gives you a good illustration of how things are supposed to look. So that is pretty helpful. But I'm up to this part, so the only thing I really have left to do as far as the interior portion is the ammunition stowage, and this is what I've got. So it comes in pieces, and what I've done, and you know, there's A, B, C, D, E, all these different segments. So I label them on the bottom so I'll know which ones are which, like E and E. That was why I was fortuitous. So I know what goes together. Now, if I had my druthers, the racks would have been independent of the shells, so the shells could have been painted individually, but they're not, so I need to deal with it. And I'm going to do this like I did another kit, which I kind of did it backwards, so I'm going to have to reapply white, but I just get some masking tape, some Tamiya tape. What I do is I run it along, well, I'll just kind of show you. I run it along the rack like this. Okay, butt it up against the rack storage part. Then I just take a toothpick or something and I pack it down in the groove like that, as far as it'll go. Then I wrap the tape on around like that. Then I take my knife, I slice this at the bottom of the trough made by the tape, and I do it all the way across. This is just showing you how, and then just burnish that down in there. That way when I spray it, now this is after I've sprayed the shells. Okay, I'll spray the shells first, which will be one of two colors, either brass or a dark metal color depending on the rounds. So I'll spray those first, then I'll do the tape. and I'll wrap it all around. And then I won't worry so much about these, because these I am going to have to hand paint, because different colored tips for the different rounds. But then once I get it all taped off, then I can respray the white, and I'm good to go as far as the major components. Then I can take a brush and hand paint the the actual projectile. I've done it before and it works pretty good, but again, it'd be just kind of nice if the ammo was separate from the racks, but they're not, so I just have to deal with it and tra-la-la like that. So I have to do all that, so I need to get all that painted, then I can glue the upper and lower sections together, then they can be placed on the sponsons here, wherever they go, depending on which one it is, and that'll pretty much complete the inside as far as construction. So after the construction's done, then I need to apply the decals, and there's decals like on these first aid boxes, decals for the dials, decal here. There's a few different decals. There's some that go back here, so I'll have to put all those, I'll have to apply all those, and then once I do that, the interior will be pretty much complete except for weathering. So once I get the entire inside done, then I can work on the weathering. A quick note, I mentioned in an earlier video that I was trying out the Mission Models paint and primer, just to see if I could introduce a water-based acrylic to my arsenal of paints, and I have to say no. I will not be using Mission Model paints. Now, I did test it, and it sprayed fine. There wasn't much in the way of tip dry or anything like that. It was a short experiment, so I don't know how it would behave over a longer spray session, especially in hotter weather, but it did spray good and all that, but it's just not a paint for me. I don't quite class it in the same category as, say, Vallejo Model Air or any of the MIG paints or anything like that, but it's a water-based acrylic. And I think the biggest drawback for me is the fact that you have to, they're real specific about using their thinner, and I'm not against, proprietary stuff, but it just, I don't know. The exact ratios you're supposed to use, X amount of drops of paint, X amount of drops of thinner, and X amount of drops of the poly additive if you decide to use it. It's just too much, and I'd either end up with a lot of waste with each paint job, or I'd end up with, not enough paint and have to make some more up and deal with the problem of the paint skinning over in the cup and all that kind of thing. That's why I like the Tamiya paint, and that's why I'm going to stick with it, is I can just mix some thinner, X20 thinner. You can get it all over the place. X20 thinner, Tamiya paint, whatever ratio I want, depending on how thin I want the paint, what kind of paint job I'm doing. If I have to sit my airbrush down for 10 minutes while I have to go do something like answer a door or, take care of whatever, when I come back, the paint is still usable and it hasn't dried in the cup. And then when I clean it, I can clean it. And if I, misjudge and I don't have enough paint, I can add some more real quick and thinner and not have to worry about any clogs or anything like that. So I'm just going to stick with Tamiya for my go-to paints for spraying. If I don't have exact colors, especially like RLM colors, German Luftwaffe colors, I can mix them. I have some good charts with some good color mixes in it, so that's what I'm going to do. And just as an example, this here, now this is kind of an anomaly. I didn't have any, for brush painting, I generally use Vallejo Model Air or Model Color, as many of you know, I'm sure. But that's what I use for brush painting, and I didn't have any in Dunkelgelb. So I don't like using Tamiya for brush painting for a lot of things. So I used Model Master acrylic paint in Panzer Dunkelgelb 1943. That's the color of it, and it works pretty good for brush painting. It usually takes a couple of coats to get good coverage, but you know, there you go. And that's the color there, and there, and there. Now this here, if you can see it, that is the Mission Models color, and it's supposed to be late war, and that's fine, but to me, for my, and it may be completely accurate for late war, I'm not saying it's not accurate, but for what I want, it's too light, too pale, it's not vibrant enough. Scale Model Alberta, can't remember his name, Glockster 43 or Glockster something. He mentioned that their colors aren't very vibrant, and I can really relate to that with this color here. So, you know, I decided not to use it. I gave it away to a friend who's been dying to try it. He can try it. If he doesn't like it, he can toss it, you know, pour it in the garden, whatever he wants to do. But I'm going to stick with Tamiya for all my spraying purposes. All right, the next project I'm going to start working on is this HE-111 German bomber. This has two of these P-47Bs in here as well, but me and my son already built those to use as paint mules. But this was one I'm going to do next, and it's for a project I want to do for kind of a beginner series type video. So let me open the box and I'll tell you what the plan is. So the deal is, this is an old Lindbergh kit, and it was repacked in this box kind of in relation to the Discovery Channel history. So you get the two fighters, and then you get the HE-111, and that way you can create a scene with it or whatever. But originally they were packaged separately, and it's an old kit. I'm not even sure when this kit was actually molded, but it says on the box that it's 1/72 scale, but according to the ScaleMates, the actual scale of it is 1/64 scale, which is kind of crazy, but you know, that's the way they used to do things back in the old days. So but you know, it's immaterial for what I'm doing with it, so you know, I'm not sweating it or anything. As far as I can see, there's no copyright date or anything. I could look on ScaleMates and see when it was actually built, but I don't want to look it up right now. But it doesn't actually say on the kit anywhere. But these are the majority of the screws. There's some more smaller parts in there, and I did start it at one point, but decided to wait. The cockpit, as you can see, it is very, very sparse, very basic, but for my purposes, it's going to work out just fine. So my plan with this kit is, I'm going to put it all together. I'm not going to build it on, I may talk about it on videos and stuff, but I'm just going to basically, I'm going to build it completely and use it for a painting exercise, because I've got a Luftwaffe project coming up, and I figured it'd be a good time to do a little practice. I mean, I've done other Luftwaffe German aircraft before, so it's not like it's going to be hard, you know, it's something I haven't done, but it'll just be more practice for me, and I can talk about some of the techniques and stuff that I use for doing German aircraft. So it's going to be mainly a painting exercise. I'll talk about, you know, the Tamiya paint and how I use it, and any of the brush painting I do with Vallejo and stuff like that, and just kind of do a beginner series talking about paint, because I have had people ask about, you know, paint and stuff before, so I'll do that. But you know, it's not really too bad of a kit. I mean, just looking at the fuselage here, when it fits together, it's got, you know, locating pins, so it's got that going for it, and it does line up fairly well. The back's got kind of an weird overlap thing here, but that's no big deal because that can be sanded down. But the difficult parts to deal with, you know, the curves and stuff, it all lines up actually pretty good. You know, I may end up talking about how I glue this kind of stuff together, to show how I do it, to make sure I keep everything as lined up as possible throughout the build. I'm probably going to do that. But anyway, it all lines up pretty well, so that's not going to be a big deal. So I think it'll be a fun project. It'll be something kind of easy, something I don't have to really, you know, sink a lot of brain power into, because the King Tiger is quite involved. So I want to build something that I can kind of relax with. So you can keep an eye out for that in the future. Hopefully in the next week or two, I should be the point where I can start on that. Go back to this. My plan is to get all the interior done, including the shells and everything, which will complete me to 36. Okay, that will complete the interior. So after that, I'm going to put it aside for a little bit because I don't want to burn myself out, because this is a very involved kit and I don't want to rush through it. I want to do a decent job. So I'm going to set that aside and work on that Heinkel HE111 in place of it. Alright, so as far as stuff, new stuff, not much except for a few items. This stuff right here I got from my friend HG Barnes. He sent me some gold, the AK Extreme Metal, and Mr. Hobby Dark Iron. This is one of the buffable paints, and that's what I'm going to be using. I'm going to use those two to paint the shells. I'll use this for, you know, some of the shells and this for some of the others. And I'm really eager to try this buffable stuff out. I'm gonna have to probably not work on using this until next week, because I'm gonna have to do it out in the shop, because this stuff is very potent in smell, and spraying that in the house would not be a good thing. So, but anyway, I'm gonna get that done and I'll report back on how this stuff works. So thanks a lot, HG, appreciate it. I'm gonna put that stuff to use. Chop chop. He also sent me this, which is a scribing tool. It's a UMM SCR-01 scribing tool, and I've been wanting to try one of these. I've been wanting to get one. I just haven't ordered anything from a place that carries this stuff in a while, but he sent it, so it's going to be pretty cool to try it out. I monkeyed around with a little bit, just, you know, on some bare plastic, and it's really kind of cool, and it'll work really well for doing scribing on especially on stuff like access panels, stuff like that on aircraft. I think it'll work really well for that. Oh, I got another package. I don't even remember where I got it from now. I think I might have got it from Scale Hobbyist. But I've been wanting to try this, and they had it in stock, and I needed these 3 colors for the King Tiger. So I went ahead and got some of the Microset and Microsol. So you know, a lot of people use this and they swear by it, so I thought, you know, I want to try it out. Seems to work well. Generally I use the Tester's decal set for placing the decal, and then I use the Solvaset, Walther's Solvaset decal setting solution to conform to surface detail and stuff like that. So I figured I'd give this a shot. I'll probably practice with it on some stuff before I commit it to a model. But a lot of people use it and they love it, so I thought, hey, it's about time I tried it. So I've got that, and then I also got these. These are the newer. I mean, they're not brand new, but they're newer colors from Tamiya: Dark Yellow 2, Red Brown 2, and Dark Green 2, which are supposed to be late war colors. Now this one should be interesting because that looks really green, but these are supposed to be late war colors, so I figure for a King Tiger that would work pretty good. And it does look a bit different, so that's kind of cool. So I'll get to try those on the King Tiger. So let's see. Yep, that's all the new stuff that I've gotten. So that's pretty much it. That's what's going on. Got the finishing up the interior of the King Tiger. Then I'll be jumping over to the Heinkel 111, the old Lindbergh kit for my painting exercise for my beginner series, and that will be that. So that's probably all I'm gonna be working on in the next, for December, because being a holiday and some other activities and stuff that I'm involved with, I'm not gonna have a whole lot of time for the bench. At least, I mean, I may have more than I'm assuming I'm gonna have, but may not have a whole lot of time. But I will keep plugging away on this stuff. I really would like to get the King Tiger to the stopping point that I've set this week, so I can get cracking on the 111. I don't know if I mentioned it, but the Heinkel, yeah, I think I did. I'm using that as a painting exercise for myself as well as for my beginner modelers audience, because of another project I have coming up, but I'll talk about that some other time. That's pretty much it, I think. So that's what's coming up. I think I'm going to post a poll sometime in December on the next armor kit that I'm going to build. I'm going to have two choices, and I'll post that up just to see what everybody thinks, and I'll go with whatever the group decides on this one, because they're kind of similar kits. But again, I'll get into that sometime next few weeks in December. So that's pretty much it. That is what's going on last month and what's coming up next month. So November, December 2019. So that is it for now. So if anybody has any questions or comments, concerns, hints, tips, etc., please put them in the comments section below, especially on that scriber. If you have that whatever number that is, scriber, if you've used that, let me know how it worked for you, if you have any tips on that. So I think that's it for this edition of Plastic Models by a Regular Dude. Thanks for joining me here again, as always, and I will see you all later.